Sandy Pirog, Bolton's first selectman. We're here today to talk about the questions on the November 2nd election ballot concerning purchase of a fire truck and charter revision. We're going to start with the purchase of the fire truck. I'm joined today by Bruce Dixon, Chief of the Bolton Volunteer Fire Department, and John Morianis, Chairman of the Fire Commission. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Thank you, Cindy. Very nice.
I'm going to read the question, which is what you'll see on the ballot, and then I'm going to turn this over to Bruce and John to give you the facts and the information behind this. Question 1. Shall the town of Bolton appropriate $810,000 for the acquisition of an engine tanker fire truck for the Bolton Volunteer Fire Department and authorize the issue of $630,000 bonds and notes to finance in part the appropriation? And before I turn it over to you guys, I just want to say that the town has currently set aside in our capital reserve fund $180,000 to help finance this purchase. Chief?
Yep, that's correct. Good morning, and thank you very much, Cindy, for inviting us to the table. One correction in the statements you just made in the question: it's not a fire truck for the Bolton Fire Department. It's for the town of Bolton. It's for the residents of the town of Bolton, and that's what the members of the Volunteer Fire Department are here to help you out with. This particular truck in question has actually been on the capital improvement plan since before 2015. What that means is I've heard comments that all of a sudden we decided to buy a fire truck. And as Sandy just mentioned, the selectmen have put aside $180,000 towards this purchase, planning this out, not a last minute decision. This particular truck in question, ET334, was actually purchased back in 1993. And I met with a selectman the other night and he said, yeah, but we actually talked about a 30-year plan when that truck was purchased, okay? Not doing something quick. This particular truck is the first truck to respond to any type of fire, including house fires, building fires, car fires, truck fires, dumpster fires, brush fire, woods, hazardous material calls, oil spills, gasoline spills, oil tanks in houses that have cracked and spilled, carbon monoxide alarms, gas alarms, motor vehicle accidents, down power lines. We had a number of those over the last year and a half with the storms we've had. And mutual aid to go out of town to help our neighbors as they reciprocate to us when we need assistance. This truck actually carries 6 people in a truck. You know, somebody asked a question recently that if the truck why does the truck go if nothing's used on it? There's always something that comes off the truck, the piece of equipment. We're the Home Depot on wheels at 2 o'clock in the morning. We can't, hurry up, go back to the firehouse and get something else, or call our mutual aid neighbors, which may show up in 20 or 30 minutes. We need something right away. The biggest thing it brings is the personnel, the volunteers that spend the time to go out at 2 o'clock in the morning to help their neighbors when everyone else is sleeping. And unfortunately, most of the people in town, luckily, haven't had to call us. Okay, but you never know when it's going to happen. This truck carries 1,000 gallons of water. It has a water pump on it of 1,500 gallons a minute. How do we equate that? 1,000 gallons of water. The average fire hose that an individual or a team of individuals use on a particular fire will actually flow between 100 and 130 gallons a minute. When we turn around and talk about 1,000 gallons of water, 130 gallons a minute, take the round figure of 100. You would think 10 minutes of fighting a fire. There's actually 2 hoses that are used. We use the phrase 2 in, 2 out. Teams of 2 go in, and a team of backup of 2 are right outside with a second hose. Plus the water to fill the hose doesn't go very far. That's why it was very smart for the population, the membership, or not the membership, but the residents, to purchase back in 2017 a 3,000 gallon tanker. 3,000 gallons of water goes a heck of a lot further, Sandy, than what the 1,000 gallon does.
And there are many fires that even need more than that.
Absolutely. In fact, you bring that up. I'll dovetail into that when we get into the. There was a document that I just put out. It was a history of the fire department, apparatus, and buildings. And there's a number of photos in there. One that goes back a long time ago, the Bolton Lake House, Bolton Lake Hotel, multiples. In town ourselves, we had a propane truck flip over with a fatal accident on Route 6 last year. I used multiple tankers from other towns to supply water for that potential problem with the tanker, the propane. We've turned around, we've had house fires on Orchard Lane, Vernon Road, etc., multiple tankers.
37 Brandy Street, my house.
There we go. You brought that up, okay? You never know when an accident is going to happen, and I guess that's why the volunteers are standing by to help you out, okay? This truck also carries multiple complements of hose, actually in the range of 650 feet of 1 3/4 plus donut rolls on top of that for the fire people to know that. 2,300 feet of 4-inch supply line. It takes a lot of water, 1,000 gallons of water to fill up that line times 2, so 2,000 gallons just to fill that line. This truck was manufactured, as I said, in 1993. It had a major rebuild of $66,000 back in 2014. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of corrosion on that truck, and one of the problems we had is a water pump. It actually went out to Gowan's Knight recently, back in May. Gowan's Knight is a supplier or repair shop for us, pretty major one in town, and the state. And they turned around and tried to do some repair work on a front suction line on the pump. We were actually on a fire, and the pump failed. Water was flowing out underneath it. We took it to the highway garage, asked the gentleman down there to try to repair it, and they said they didn't want to touch it because of the corrosion. We sent it to Gowan's Knight. They put a temporary patch on, and it came back, and we all know what happened after that. On Route 384, the engine died. There was a seal, known publicly as a head gasket on the truck, blew. The truck was out of service for 2.5 months. We took a gamble on that. We got it fixed. It's back online with a different engine in it now. It's a bus engine. Some of the other factors that come along with this truck is that corrosion in a 30-year-old truck is evident. With the updating in 2014 for some of the repairs to it to make it look a little nicer, new paint job, corrosion has come through on the body since then. The pump is the corrosion I just mentioned. The brakes continue to be a question. The electrical system, we've got failure in wires, we've got failure in the lighting in the compartment. We've got metal fatigue. This particular truck, like any of the fire trucks, is fully loaded when it's sitting in a firehouse. It's got all the water, it's got all the equipment, and then we add all the personnel to jump on it. In the middle of the night, in the middle of the day, whatever it is, they start the engine and they go off to a call. It's not letting the truck warm up, let it, as you would, a lot of people do in their driveways, and don't do that now when people are stealing cars early in the morning. But anyway, it's not warmed up, it goes off to a call, it does its job, and it comes back. Some of the corrosion issues that come about, Sandy, are that in the wintertime, it's a heated garage. Yes, the garage is heated about 50, 55 degrees, but now it goes out in sub-zero temperature. Then it comes back in condensation, just like on our glasses, builds up on there. That's in the body, in the doors, etc.
That's a great analogy.
We turn around in the summertime. We go out in the heat, and then we come back in the cold. There's a lot of corrosion inside. The salt solution they're putting on the highways now, okay, is a little different. In Bolton, we used sand, a little bit of salt. On the state highways, we're using the brine solution. And that is one of the other trucks, fairly new truck that we have, 2013, so that makes it 13 or 7 years old, 8 years old now, had a major problem with corrosion on the emission systems. It had to be all replaced. But these are things that we can't control. You turn around and we've got to live with, and then when the truck gets to 30 years old like it has, it's time to replace it. Emission system, somebody mentioned emissions, and I had a comment from one of the state highway foremen. They replaced, how many trucks recently?
300.
300 trucks or so of their
last 2
fleet,
years
a couple
ago.
years old, as it goes. So at 30 years, we've got a lot of time out of it. The perception of the public, I think, is that when the fire department puts the trucks out in front of the bay, or they go down the road to a call, or they go in a parade, it looks beautiful. And why? Because your volunteers are taken care of aesthetically and outside. We can't control all the mechanical, the electrical, and engine pump factors on the inside. It's time. The last truck, John, maybe you can relate or talk about ET 134.
Yeah, that was used replaced in 1972, and that was replaced. Usually, we try and do a truck for 30 years, is what a thing is, and most towns around are the same thing. The thing about the trucks are, just because they look good and everything like that, there's issues. They start breaking down, and you can't have that with a fire truck. If people are inside a building and you run out of water, the pump breaks, the thing, you're risking people's lives, and that's the main thing. That's our better insurance policy than a real insurance policy.
We've got, there's other comments that are being made. I read one down here. Somebody questioned about having the engine tanker, and the terminology changes a little bit. It's an engine tanker with more so 1,000 gallons of water versus our tanker, a 2017 tanker, which is 3,000 gallons of water. And how I relate that in a very, very generic way, and we just did fire prevention for the children, so, the kindergarten through third grade, so I'm still thinking about that. You have a lawnmower for mowing the grass in the springtime?
I do.
What happens in the wintertime when it snows?
It sits in the garage for 6 months.
Okay. How do you clean the snow? A snow blower.
No, I have a skid steer, but
skid
it's
steer.
a totally different machine.
Even different, okay. And if we're going to move dirt from one side of the yard to the other, you don't do it with a lawnmower or
You do it with the skid,
a skid steer.
Exactly.
You have a different tool for a different purpose.
Exactly. Great analogy.
We have
again.
a ladder truck that gets to the rooftops to safely carry our volunteers on a snowy night to a chimney fire to take care of residents' chimney fire. We turn around and have the tanker to bring multiple gallons of water to try to mitigate a problem, waiting for our neighbors to bring other trucks. And we have this engine tank, 334, 30-year-old truck that goes to the majority of the calls that people are in trouble and they don't know how to handle them. We try to do that, take care of that. There were a couple nice quotes that I heard I read on Facebook. I guess that's the thing to go to, I don't know. It says, thank you to BVFD for all you do to help our community. No appointment necessary. Day or night, they show up. You never know when an accident or fire will happen. It could be one of us who is saved because you were smart enough to vote yes for this truck. Another comment here, we had a fire once at 3 o'clock in the morning, Christmas Day. Once I called 911 the same person, once I called 911 for a 1-year-old, and it took the ambulance 45 minutes to get to my house. Bolton Fire Department was there in minutes. Our fire department shows up no matter what. They deserve the best. Any other comments, John?
Yeah, we're not just looking for a truck because we want to have the best and prettiest truck in the neighborhood. Like I said, most of the other towns around do the same thing, usually 25, 30 years on the trucks. Some places are even less. We would just like to have the best equipment we can have for the money. As you know, every year we put our budget in. We put it a zero budget or as close to it as we can. We don't just go out and want something. We try and be fiscally responsible, and buying this truck now is fiscally responsible because there is an increase they're talking about. And I think if I was going to hedge a bet, it's going to be more than what they're talking about with the shortages of materials and stuff like that. So January 1st, when the increases go up, it's going to be more than the $26,000.
For an increase, yeah.
Okay.
Sandy, you and I talked about this as part about the financing and the bond of this. Mm-hmm. And actually, we had one particular company come in as a bank that presented us with some rates.
They did. Unfortunately, the Board of Selectmen needs to talk about that a little bit more
Yeah.
before we bring it forward to the public.
Okay.
I do have a couple questions for you guys. Thanks, this was a great presentation, and I think you addressed most of the questions that I've seen raised on social media, but one you didn't. If I approve this today and vote yes, or let's put it this way, when I approve this today and vote yes, when am I going to see that truck in the firehouse?
That's a good question. First of all, the public meeting, which is going to be held on the 19th, which is tonight
Today,
for
yeah.
us, okay, later today, that's not, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, That's not a vote for the truck as it was is voiced or printed in the Journal Enquirer last night.
That's correct. That was a
Okay.
misreporting. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's a vote of the public to say, yes, put it on the referendum because we want to buy a fire truck.
Yes.
And because of charter, it has to go through this particular process, okay? I did get a phone call the other morning. One of the manufacturers we're looking at a 5% price increase here in the first part of the year. And that's why the selectmen have taken the proactive approach to looking at this now, setting up this referendum what it was, to give us a short period of time to go out and get responsible bids for this particular piece of equipment. To answer the question of when the truck would come in, if the truck is ordered around the end of the year, first of next year, we're looking at least a year, 12 to 14 month turnaround before the truck comes in. So what that means also is the town has turned around and fiscally put $180,000 aside for this truck. I know several out there will give us a discount because we're able to put that money down, saving the town some more money. On the other side, it doesn't have to be paid for until the truck comes in. So we're talking a year,
That's
14
the point I
months down
wanted
the road.
to bring up. Thank you.
So that will give us time to investigate the different bonding options out there, which is one of them we talked about. Sandy, pushed the question off a little bit, but there's one company we talked to, bank out there, that actually gives us a rate that's cheaper than the bond rates out there. In fact, that was mentioned in another article the other day. So 12 to 14 months to answer your question, I got there.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you want to bring out to discuss to the public?
I think from the membership, I want to thank the community for their support on how they've supported us, what they've given us for equipment over the years, okay? And the members have done a very good job taking care of your equipment. We're just looking to make sure you have the best in a 30-year-old truck going to emergency with a number of the factors I've spoken to, makes it a little difficult over a period of time.
At the
Great.
town meeting tonight, it's not the approval of it. So at least if enough people can vote to say, yes, let's put it before the whole town. So, even if you're not really on board with it yet, please vote yes tonight. Then it goes before the whole town. And if you guys have any questions, me or Chief Dixon would be glad to take you up to the firehouse in person and show you what we have for equipment, what each one does, explain it more in person. Sometimes people need a little drawing on a on a napkin, but we'll be willing to do that just to help out anybody in the town that's got any questions.
All right. I want to say a big thank you again to John Morianis Jr., Chairman of the Fire Commission, and Bruce Dixon, Chief of the Bolton Volunteer Fire Department, for joining me today to help give you some information to help you make your decision on voting on question 1. Shall the town of Bolton appropriate $810,000 for the acquisition of an engine fire truck? I hope you join me on our next show, when I'll be joined by Gwen Marion and John Toomey, members of the Charter Revision Commission, to talk about questions 2 through 11 on the charter. All of these questions are going to be on the ballot at the November 2nd election. And I want to say thank you to CVC and the CVC staff for this great opportunity to bring this information to you and helping us make TV, not just watching it. Bye for now.